Hello, and welcome to another Elevated Marketing Chat. My name is Jennifer Denny. I am the owner of Elevated Marketing Solutions, a digital marketing agency here located in Indianapolis, but we handle clients all over. And today we are going to talk about advertising budgets, how to decide your advertising budget. This is definitely a topic that we get a lot, and it's usually at the beginning of a conversation and talking with someone, and right off the bat they want to know, well, how much should I spend on ads? And that is just not a simple answer per se. There's no, well, if you just spend this much, then it's going to work, or if you do that much, then it's definitely going to work. We talked previously in our last chat about strategy. First of all, before you even talk budget, you have to nail down the strategy. You have to go through, figure out, who you can target, where you can target on. I shouldn't say who you should target. I should say your audience and who is your target audience, what platform you can find them on, and go through some of the numbers that you find to figure out, okay, how much budget do I need in order for this to make sense? We talked about last time, within budget, you have to think about multiple platforms. So you don't just want to use one advertising platform or the other. You want to have both that top of funnel, so people who don't know who you are, and you want that bottom of the funnel too. So let's walk through the math that you use in order to come up with what I will say is a rough budget of what you need to get started. So the first thing you want to look at is, what is your conversion rate of your website? What the heck is that? Conversion rate means that when traffic comes into your website, you convert traffic at a certain percentage. So out of 100 people that come to your website, normal average, 5 people are going to fill out a form, make a phone call, or whatever your desired action of the website is, which is called a conversion. And so you need to know what your conversion rate is, so that when we're driving traffic through paid ads, we know how often you're going to convert. And before you get kind of freaked out, most people don't know what their conversion rate is. And that's because most people don't have their conversion set up, because it's not a simple thing to do. It takes a little bit of experience and coding and know-how. So if you're already stuck back then, answering the question on how much budget do you need with your ads is going to be an even more difficult question, because you're just not sure how much your website converts. But these are important metrics to know, though, so that when you get to that stage, you kind of know what you need to start off with. So the next thing you need to know is, back in your strategy session, you kind of determine where you can find your audience and what platforms that you're going to be on. There are a ton of smart people out there that have developed average cost per click and average click-through rates on these different platforms. And so let's say Facebook ads or Google ads, there are some averages across the United States for different cost per clicks and click-through rate. That is another number that you need in this equation to figure out your advertising budget. Be careful though. Don't put all your stock into, oh, this is how much my cost per click is going to be, because remember, these are averages across the United States. And so different areas are going to have different cost per clicks, different agencies, different people are going to be running those accounts, and there's all kinds of factors that go into how much you pay per click. So it is an average. It's not necessarily what you are going to pay. So far we've talked about conversion rate, click-through rate and cost per click, within the platforms that you have. The next thing you want to understand is what is your available audience on the particular platform that we're trying to create a budget. So if we're talking about Google Ads, you're doing some keyword research and you're figuring out how much search volume there is for your product or service. If you're on Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or a different platform, they have tools too within there that you can figure out what the audience size is. Well, why do you need the audience size? Well, everybody can kind of go into ads with a different budget, but sometimes you want to dominate the space, and sometimes you're just looking to get started so that you can kind of see how your website converts and move forward with that. So audience size allows us to know, how much traffic we can get in. So here comes the math, the not so fun time. So if we take that audience size divided by the average click-through rate, so how often, if your ad is presented, you end up getting a click-through, then take that number, how many clicks you have, times the average cost per click, and that is going to give you how much money you would need in order to kind of dominate the entire space. Then if you wanted to know how many leads you would get, then you would get that down to divided by your conversion rate. So how often you're going to convert that traffic that came in. That is a whole lot of math and quite honestly a whole lot of guessing, because remember, we're assuming you know your conversion rate of your website. We're assuming those averages are somewhat normal. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. So it's really a rough guess on the type of budget that you would need to be dominant in a particular space. But not everybody needs to be dominant, and not everybody has the budget to afford to be dominant. So sometimes you come in with, okay, what's the minimum viable audience that we can go for? In that case, it goes back to math again. So we have figured out what the average cost per click is. We know on average that 95% of people don't convert on that first time through. So we can kind of mathematically figure out, okay, 5% conversion rate times the cost per click, then we're going to get, kind of our minimum budget for our top of funnel. And then we can add in another 30% for bottom of funnel. Most of you are like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of math. It certainly can be, and it's not a fun topic to kind of talk to. But my point though today is really to discuss that coming up with an advertising budget is not kind of a simple answer that you come up with. You should have kind of a minimum that you should go into it. I like to say if you have less than $1,500 a month in advertising budget, then it's not that won't work, but there's different strategies that you kind of have to go through, and you have to set your expectations a little bit differently, perhaps depending on what your industry is. So let's take, for instance, lawyers, one of the most expensive Google Ads type of industry that you can do. Well, if the average click on the very low end is $20, and let's say that you only have $1,000 a month, well, that's $30 a day or one click. So you have to set your expectations correct on, the type of, generation you're going to get out of that if you don't have the money to play. Now, there's different strategies you can do to kind of combat that so that everybody can kind of play the game, but you got to have those expectations correct. So, that is it for today, covering how to make an advertising budget. My point is simply to say that it's not easy. We do have a blog post on this. If you go to elevatedmarketing.solutions, you can learn more about that blog post. If you like what you see, please like, follow, and subscribe. We are all over Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Well, it's been a little minute. YouTube, and of course we have a email newsletter. So next time we are going to talk about Google Shopping ads. Can they compete with Amazon ads? And so we will talk all about that, and that will be on July 14th at our normal time of 1 o'clock. All right, take care and have an awesome day.